I think that leads nicely into the second session, the second part of today's session, which we're going to talk around energy being the key, not the time needed. And I think, you mentioned about energy a couple of minutes back around how you spend your energy, and choosing where you spend your energy is really, really important. And look, let's be honest, I'm talking to you today about my expertise around creating content efficiently, but it equally applies to lots of different business functions, right? Like whatever you're doing, it's about being the most efficient you can be and spending your energy on it in a way that doesn't suck the life out of you. And if it does suck the life out of you, maybe it's not the right choice for you to be doing it. And I know it's not always a choice at the beginning. Sometimes we've just got to get through the early days of running our business or low revenue points to the point where we can afford to bring in other partners or associates to support us in the elements that we find less fun to do or drain the energy from us, or maybe it's just not our zone of genius and we need somebody who's more efficient at it to do that. And that's kind of why Doris and I got talking in the first place, is because we share the same mindset. We share the same methods and strategies. It's just that Doris does that more with a parenting hat on and looking outside of the business world in, and I do it from the content perspective, looking out at the business. And they're connected from both ends. But one thing that I made a conscious effort when I left the corporate world was to spend more of my energy on the things that I wanted to do, as opposed to doing things that I should be doing. And that's people, networking, that's business. It's the things in the business, the tasks I do in the business. And I've come to accept that, if I was to employ a marketer to market on my behalf, I've no doubt that they go, "Oh, Paul, you're missing opportunities here, you're missing opportunities there, you should be doing this, you should be doing that." And a lot of the things that they'd suggest that I do, I've already thought about and chose not to do them. Not because I don't think they're effective, but just because I don't think they'd be fun. I wouldn't want to do it, and my brain just wouldn't let me do it as a result. Right? Like I'm ADHD, if you couldn't guess. If it's boring, brain says no. Simple as that. Like, it's not even going to get started on doing it. So I've got to find sometimes that's a battle as well, though, right? Like it's a blessing sometimes, and sometimes it's a curse, because I need to get stuff done and I need to get my brain into mode to just get started. And once I do, then I find that I can really go with that. And so the first point that I come to is aligning things like your content creation with where you have the energy to do those things. So content creation, I find, is quite surprisingly, right? It's a creative activity. You've got to have ideas stirring in your head. And sometimes those ideas come outside of work hours. So my advice would be using your email as a to-do list. You've got to come up with a brilliant idea. Instead of rushing off to do it there and then, send yourself it in an email so that you can do it later. Where also that's quite useful for stopping yourself running off chasing shiny objects, as I tend to do. Because I'll come back to that email a day or two later and I'll go, yeah, that just doesn't feel like as good of an idea as it did at the time, and I don't think I should do that. So it gives me that breathing space to think about whether it's a good idea or not. But it allows me to, we talk about recording video. I tend to do it on a Tuesday. Monday, I'm far too busy recovering everything in my business and stopping myself from panicking about my business, because I haven't worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday feels like a bit of a panic until midday, because I've got to do a certain amount of work before I can breathe and feel like I'm okay now. I've caught up on everything. There's no point me trying to record content in amongst that, because it will come across wrong. So Tuesday, I start the day and I feel, right, okay, I'm relaxed. On Monday, I've got everything done. Tuesday, I'm on top of this. I've got a busy diary maybe, but I can get some content recorded in between things, and my brain's there with it. So the beauty of batching things and doing things all at once is that you can do it at the point where in the week, whether it's even on a night or early morning, middle of the day, wherever your energies are, experiment with where's best to do that content. And it might change for you over time, right? It's not always going to be the same. To your point, Doris, like, if your family schedule changes, your work schedule might change to go with it. If I've had a busy Tuesday night, I might not feel like recording content on a Wednesday morning. I might be too tired or just needing to recover. But then also thinking about the things that you do have to do, or you choose to do, can you be more efficient at them? And that comes through a couple of different routes, right? So the first thing I'd always recommend everybody do is to systemize what you're doing. Build a worksheet of each task and break it down step by step to what makes sense for you. Not necessarily click this button, click that button kind of thing, but what are the things that you do for that task, and write them down on a spreadsheet so you can tick them off if you want to. Most people probably will never look at that spreadsheet again for a while because you've done it once, but it helps you understand what steps you're taking. And if you ever decide to ask somebody else to do it for you, you've got a starting point. It also gives you a visual overlay of like, how much am I actually doing here, and which steps could be automated. And that's the next thing I would come to is there's lots and lots of tools and technology out there now that's wonderful at helping us shave time and effort from everyday tasks. That's both a blessing and a pitfall, because many a day have I spent till 3 o'clock in the morning looking at a new piece of technology, getting into the fine details of it, chucking all of my knowledge and expertise into it so I can make it fantastic, and then getting to 2:58 a.m. and realizing that it doesn't do something really, really crucial that I need it to do, and that all my effort's been wasted for the rest of the evening. That's not fun. But now and again, it works the other way, and I do that till 3 o'clock in the morning, and it works wonderfully and saves me 5 hours a week. So talk with your peers, find somebody else who's used that piece of software or that technology, or found ways of doing that thing that you're looking at, and make sure you're doing things in the most efficient capacity. Can you use an AI platform to kickstart your thinking, for example? If you spend a lot of time trying to ideate on things, maybe just doing that to begin with shaves off a lot of your time. And then the last thing I'd say is, you've done all of that, but you're still spending too long on doing that activity, or you're still just not enjoying it, or it's tiring you. Maybe you outsource it once you've got the revenue to do that. And that's where I sit, is in that kind of, I want people to give me something really efficiently. 20 minutes of your time will record the video. I'm going to give you back so much content you don't need to worry about it for 6 weeks. There's a price tag that comes with that, but the smile that I get from people when I see them open their email and they've got all their files in there, it just makes it all worth it, because I know how much time I've saved them and how much better they're going to be able to extract the value from what they've said than they could ever do themselves. So that's my side of this conversation. But I know, Doris, energy is something that you talk to your clients a lot about, right?
Yeah, it is. Because everything to me is energy, right? That's what life is all about, And when you're a busy professional and you've got kids, right? People tend to think, well, I just need more time. Right? If I could have 30 hours in a day, right? Wouldn't it be amazing, right? But what happens is that we just fill up that time too, right? It is like you were saying, it's all about that efficient use of time. And what typically happens is that if you're a morning person like me, right? The whole 8 till 10, right? Lock me in a room, right? If I can just have no distractions, I can do whole day's work, right? In just those 2 hours. But what happens when you're in corporate? You've got a meeting at 9 o'clock, and then you've got another meeting at 10 o'clock, right? And then at 11 till 12. And then you have that slump, right? You have lunch, right? Then you have still got to do your day's work, but you've got another 2 meetings in the afternoon. And then you sit there like, I haven't even, and you've got a to-do list, right? Longer than, and I've got short ass arms, right? You know what I'm saying. And, and you're sitting there like, I haven't done anything. Okay, I ran out of time, right? And how often, right, does that happen when you're in corporate, sitting there like, and then not only that, half the meetings I get into, you're sitting there like, why the hell
We're going to have a
was I
meeting
called?
about a meeting. That's my favorite one. Let's have a meeting to set the agenda for the meeting for next week.
Yeah. And then, and actually, a lot of things happens because your manager or boss called it, and we feel as if we didn't have, the agency to turn around and say, why are you calling me into that meeting? I've got nothing to do. If I, and it's kind of like, experiment that with that.